Welcome to Building Fortunes Radio. Make sure you check us out at buildingfortunesradio.com. Along with our marketing partners, we're here to help our PM Marketing Network Lead customers build their businesses and make the world a better place. At Building Fortunes, we know how much your business means to you and the people important to you. So spread the word, tell a friend, join our newsletter, and go make a difference in your world. Now on to our show with your host, Peter Mingils.
Hello, everyone. Peter Mingils here. You are listening to me on Building Fortunes Radio. BuildingFortunesRadio.com is the domain name for those people that might be unfamiliar with this. And I started this radio show, this radio station, a little bit over 6 years ago, I think, as a result of wanting to do something to be able to give people in this industry a bigger microphone and a bigger platform for the things that were positive about home-based businesses and network marketing specifically. So if you go to buildingfortunesradio.com, you'll be able to hear and listen to and see all the different shows that we've done. Some of our guests did one-time shows. Some of our guests did multiple series of shows, and some of our guests do ongoing shows. So if you go to buildingfortunesradio.com, you'll be able to, again, see that as well. So we also put this radio station on Amazon Skills. So if you have your favorite Alexa device and you say, Alexa, play Building Fortunes Radio, she will play Building Fortunes Radio, which you will probably hear in my background because I told her to play Building Fortunes Radio. So as a result of any or all of these things, we're working hard to try to do as much as we possibly can to shine a positive spotlight on MLM. Now, having said that, my background was in direct sales and direct sales management. I run this company called PM Marketing Network Leads. I told you why we started Building Fortunes Radio. Today I'm going to do a radio show a little bit unlike the ones that we do with other guests because I'm here alone. We usually do this radio show on Monday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time and sometimes have Tony Canuli join us, but Tony was busy doing something else. I already sent out a bulletin, and I figured, you know what, I'm going to talk about this anyway. So there's several things that are happening in the MLM world that I think you probably need to pay attention to. Now, let me give you all my disclosures or disclaimers. Number one, I'm not an attorney. I speak to a lot of attorneys. I study a lot of attorneys, but I'm not an attorney. So you can't construe this as a privileged client relationship, nor take any of the advice that I'm going to suggest might be advice. I'm not even giving you advice. I don't even know who you are listening in. I say that just playfully. So you'll realize that, you know what, you're on your own to do your own due diligence, and the sooner you learn that in life, I think the better. That's number one. Number two, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, we are definitely pro-MLM, but I am definitely anti-MLM done wrong. And there's a big challenge in this industry where a lot of people don't educate people about what's right and what's wrong. And there's a blind spot or delusional group of people, including some people that are or should know better. They just don't want to speak the truth because it might not be convenient for them. So because I never wanted to do anything just because it wasn't convenient for me, I think integrity is doing the right thing no matter what. I'm going to share some things and thoughts and some ideas of what's happening in the industry that you need to pay some attention to. So most recently, last week, there was an FTC lawsuit filed or a lawsuit filed by the FTC against a company called Neora. And for those people keeping score, Neora is Neora. Neora. An interesting name, something that you probably haven't seen before, and probably for branding purposes, that's why it was chosen. But it was chosen as a new name for an older company called Nerium. So many of you might be familiar with Nerium, Nerium, and they chose a new name, I think, because of several reasons. Number one, they had some challenges with a previous supplier that says you can't use that name anymore, so you have to pick another one. And probably also, they've been getting a lot of bad press recently, so there's really no advantage to keeping that old name because of all the old press. If you're looking up Nerium, you'll probably find lots of things, including lawsuits and a whole bunch of other issues as well. Now I have to share with you this. These are my opinions. I've dug in a lot, but not at an expert level. So some of the things that I may say may not be 100% technically correct, so take that with a grain of salt as we go. But Nerium was a very large company for a very long period of time. And any large company, of course, is going to have some lawsuits. So just the fact that a company gets a lawsuit doesn't necessarily mean anything. Anybody could sue anything for any reason. and they often do. So just because a company gets sued doesn't mean anything. However, when you have a whole bunch of distributors that don't follow a whole bunch of rules, they have a tendency of getting you in more trouble, regardless of your compliance things. And Nerium was pretty well known for a lot of distributors saying this about their anti-aging product and that about their anti-aging product and a whole bunch of other things about some of their other product line. So organizations like Truth in Advertising have a field day with just picking off different things that different distributors say. So whenever you have an easy-to-enter industry like an MLM, and you have people that usually are not very coachable because they want to be their own bosses, and they don't understand all the things regarding legal issues and compliance, you're going to have, or they're flat out excited, enthusiastic because of the product testimonials that they personally developed. There's a lot of sloppiness out there when it comes to what people say or do about the product. Now, what I'm going to say next is not technically 100% true, but here's a little bit of an idea. You can say whatever you want about a product. As a customer, you can say whatever you want. This product helped me lose weight. This product made me look younger. This product made me whatever. I grow more hair, lose more hair, whatever it might be. And they kind of give you the opportunity, they meaning like the regulators, kind of give you the opportunity to say more or less whatever you want. If you're the customer, once you cross over and become the salesman, that's a totally different thing. So as a customer, they could say whatever they want, probably, and don't take this out of context. So everything to an extreme could be taken out of context. But realistically speaking, customers could say what they want. Hey, Fred, this stuff helped me lose 100 million pounds. I wasn't able to lose that weight, or this stuff helped me get off my diabetic medicine. Whatever they might say, customers can talk to customers or anybody else, but when they start being used or become distributors, that's not good, especially when it comes to health claims. So same thing, I guess, with income claims as well, but especially with health claims, they don't like that. So the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, is the one that goes after deceptive stuff. So there's a couple of different regulation or government regulators. The FTC's Federal Trade Commission, they go after deceptive claims. FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, go after whatever's in the bottle is supposed to be in the bottle. SEC, Security and Exchange, usually goes after stocks and securities or investment contracts and Ponzi schemes. Who else is there? FTC, FDA, SEC. Those are the biggies, right? So those are the biggie ones that we usually deal with in this industry. You usually don't hear about anybody else. FCC, not usually, but EPA, probably not, all that sort of stuff. So anyway, so back to this. So this company called Nerium has a lot of people saying a lot of things, and Tina, truthinadvertising.org, if you go to truthinadvertising.org or tina.org, basically wrote a letter to company presidents and owners, the FTC, as well as the DSA, Direct Selling Association, about a lot of the claims that they had found and said, hey, man, these are the claims, you better stop it. Or they didn't even say you better stop it. They just said these are the claims. And if you go to tina.org, you'll see that companies like Vima were hit really big, and companies like Advocare and companies like Nerium and even Jeunesse and a few other companies out there have been put on notice, if you will, by Tina, TINA.org, O-R-G, about some of their health and income-related claims. So Tina's got some pretty big weight. There's a gal named Bonnie Patton, some other attorneys that I believe work for that company. They're pretty straight, kind of reputable. When I say kind of reputable, they make valid arguments. They've gone after people besides MLM. They also go after people like, Mike Lindell from MyPillow, and even companies like Walmart for Made USA labels, and a whole bunch of other things as well. They have a great website. So if you go to tina.org, you can see a whole bunch of other stuff. But they do have a tendency of go after deceptive claims made by MLM companies. And I think, if you're asking me for my opinion, the FTC investigation against Nerium, which has been going on, they said, since 2016, probably was at least in part prompted by whatever Tina probably did. That's my opinion. And I think that's the same thing that happened with Advocare recently, that just got sued by the FTC, and they settled for a $150 million fine and a ban about MLM, and they've done other ones as well. So if you go check out TINA.org, you'll see it. If you go look at FTC.gov, that's Federal Trade Commission, FTC.gov, you'll be able to see some other stuff. If you go to maybe a little bit more on the biased side, websites like BehindMLM.com, run by a gentleman who goes by the pseudonym of Oz, you'll see a whole bunch of stuff with a whole bunch of really good links. And just beware, Behind MLM is biased against MLM. And they do a lot of, they meaning it's either him and his group of people, do a lot of work behind the scenes to bring everyone some really good information. I mean, I hate to say it might be biased against MLM, but a lot of the stuff, like when they're bringing lawsuits and other comments about other research and some of his or their opinions about a whole bunch of stuff, they have a tendency of being pretty hard on the MLM side, a little bit on the snarky side. However, factually, they happen to be pretty good many times. So if you want to find links, you can look into that website or the comments. If you go to ftc.gov, you'll be able to see links as well. There's another website, businessforhome.org, Business for Home, that's F-O-R, home, H-O-M-E.O-R-G, which is another website. Now, this one's written by Ted Knighton. Ted lives up, I think, in the Netherlands, so he's outside of the reach of the United States. Ted is pro-MLM as long as you pay him. So that's not a slam. That's pretty well known. He's advertiser-driven, editorial-driven, meaning if you got a check or had a check or want to give him a check, he'll probably write an article about you and keep it good. So you'll see which ones probably are favorable towards Ted. And I won't name the companies, but you'll see a lot of them. And as a result of that, I'll just take that as it will. Ted's for sale. So if you go there, you'll see some other stuff about these types of issues as well. But Nerium was sued just recently, and this is still live, this is live. Nerium, which is now called Neora, was just sued by the FTC on a whole bunch of different things. Income claims, health-related claims. I don't know that much about what I'm going to say next, so allow me to be a little bit off. Nerium developed a product that helps people with brain-related issues, allegedly. Some of those brain-related issues are regarding concussions and brain trauma, Alzheimer's maybe even, other stuff along that line is what the documentation allegedly says. They had a couple of suppliers, which, by the way, already settled with the FTC about their medical claims, and that product ingredient, I believe, is abbreviated EHT. I don't know that much about what EHT stands for. You can go to the different websites and find it, or if you read the complaints by the FTC, you'll be able to hear about all of them that they documented as well. But basically, the FTC is alleging that Neora was claiming that this product will do things that doesn't have the rigorous testing that it needs to be able to stand up to medical claims. So that's pretty common in this industry to have these types of challenges, but they went after them pretty much big time. So income claims, meaning that people can make, lifestyle rich and famous. Pyramid claims, meaning a lot of people are just buying it to qualify for commissions. Health-related claims. So they got a whole bunch of stuff going after Jeff Olson and the company, and they previously settled with the suppliers of this EHT product line. So this is going to be one that hurts, in my opinion, because usually the FTC doesn't go after ones that they are going to lose. They usually go after ones that they're going to win. Now, just a little bit about Jeff Olson. Jeff Olson's been around forever. Forever is a long time. I remember when I first seriously took a look at the network marketing industry, he was the owner, I think, or co-owner of a company called TPN, the People's Network. If you remember satellite dishes, they actually had a satellite dish channel that they were selling for self-development. By the way, full disclosure, I joined because I was a consumer of self-development. So people like Brian Tracy and Earl Nightingale and all the other Nightingale Conant type people were involved in that. It was a pretty good gig. They had this satellite, and you'd be able to get the channel. And there's a common name that some people in this industry are familiar with, Eric Worre. So Eric Worre and Jeff Olson were kind of partners with this whole TPN thing. And then something happened and it didn't work out, and they had to sell it to a gentleman who's a great sales trainer. His name is Paul J. Meyer, who I believe has died since then. But Paul J. Meyer ran a company called Success Motivation Institute, so this was right up his alley. And then something happened where Jeff Olson went out and did something on his own. So there's probably some scuttlebutt about how that happened. But Jeff Olson wound up, and I think that's when he started, or right around when he started Nerium. So Jeff went on his own, started this company. It kind of hit the bricks. Lots of people like Jeff. He joined over, blah, blah, blah. The rest is history. And now we're up to today's date as far as the FTC suing him. So Jeff Olson, if you've ever heard him, is a dynamic speaker. He's one of those powerful personalities. So you either love him or you hate him, I'm sure. So plenty of people have lots of stories about Jeff Olson, and if you're going to be around this industry for any period of time, you're going to have lots of stories told about you, especially if you own the company, and who knows what else happened. There's probably a lot of gossip and some truth to probably almost everything that you hear. So anyway, so Jeff Olson's not the push-around kind of guy. So at the same date that the FTC is suing Neora, which is Nerium, he or the company decides to sue the FTC. Now this is interesting. Suing the FTC on what grounds? Enter Donald Trump. So enter Donald Trump. This is something most of you don't know. That's why I'm doing this radio show. Donald Trump signed an executive order on October 9th of 2019. If you don't want to read it, you can hear it. Go to YouTube, type in Donald Trump executive order, October 9th, 2019. You'll find some YouTube videos on this. They're really long, hour long. The portion about this executive order isn't an hour long. They basically did his executive order signing and explanation. They did a press conference after that. So the first 25 minutes is probably the executive order stuff. The rest of it is the stuff that you can shut off. But what these executive orders are is that the government agencies that go through unelected officials, people like the FTC, you've never been on a ballot where you voted for an FTC person, right? You voted for the local dog catcher in your town. That might be an exaggeration, but who the governor would be, the mayor, the city council person. Those are people you voted for, but you've never voted for FTC. You've never voted for SEC. You probably never voted for FDA. These are government agencies that are run by unvoted for people. So there's some predatory practices done by some of these government agencies, for sure. So Donald Trump, you don't have to like Donald Trump to like what he did. Donald Trump signed an executive order that says there has to be more transparency with the guidance that these government agencies provide. So there's no secrets, and you're not going to get slapped up by a fine or a lawsuit by these federal agencies and have your life or your business totally destroyed. So Neora, Jeff Olson, is using Donald Trump's executive order signing in October of 2019 to sue the FTC. Say, see, that's what Donald Trump was talking about. Now, if you watch the YouTube movie that I mentioned a little bit earlier, you'll probably find that Donald Trump wasn't really talking about the FTC and MLM. The examples that he used were people like some guy over in Wyoming, I think the state was, who put a pond on his land and didn't get the necessary permits, and the EPA says you can't do that here. And they were fining him $37,000 a day, where the fine ran up to $16 million. And unless a legal watchdog jumped in the middle, this guy would have been put out of everything. He would have been fined into oblivion, lost his property, just because, and I'm not minimizing what he did, just because he put up a pond on land that he owned and didn't know. So probably the biggest thing is didn't know, or maybe even didn't agree with what he did and why he did what he did based on some government guidance that he didn't know. So Donald Trump was saying you got to have this stuff on your website for the general public to know if they're violating some of your rules. There was another example, a gentleman who ran an oyster farming situation over on the coast of California. The government put this guy's business out of business, and he wound up destroying his 200 million oysters and his third-generation oyster farm, and there's a dozen or so other oyster farms that are going to be shut down because of this government guidance that nobody knows about or can challenge, and that's what Donald Trump was signing the executive order about, in my opinion. He wasn't doing it to protect Neora or Jeff Olson. So my opinion is I think this is going to fall flat on its face as far as Neora suing the FTC, but it looks good publicly for the MLM industry, or it looks good maybe publicly for the distributors, him trying to hold it together. But I don't think it's going to last, my opinion. Next, I don't know. Here's my opinion. I'm not so sure if I would have done that. It might have been time for Jeff to pay the fine, make whatever adjustments, chalk it up, tighten his belt, maybe even lose his business. But by what he's doing, he's really starting to set a precedent if this goes anywhere on what the Federal Trade Commission is going to now do to maybe even further tighten the noose on the MLM industry. So who knows where it goes. I don't think it's going to go anywhere positively for Neora or positively for the MLM industry. And I'm going to suspect there's probably some company owners that are calling Jeff Olson right now and saying, go for it, Jeff, fight those bad guys. And probably some other ones that aren't calling him that said, I wish you wouldn't do that. This is not going to make it easier for the industry. And I don't know if Jeff Olson is saying, if I'm going down, they're all going down. I don't know. So there's a lot of things I don't know, but we'll see. And I just put this on the record so you guys can hear it. Okay, now I'm going to switch gears because I think that was an interesting story. The next gear that I'm switching to is today started the first day of jury selection for a trial that most people don't know about because they don't follow this stuff. There was an attorney. His name is Mark Scott, M-A-R-K, Scott, S-C-O-T-T. And he was an attorney that helped allegedly launder money for OneCoin. OneCoin was or is still active, and many people say that they're a fake cryptocurrency and a blatant Ponzi scheme. Remember, I said many people said this, and I'll leave that where it goes. And they have been challenged and lots of stuff going on, as well as the brother who took over, what's his name? Konstantin Ignotovov. It's a Belgian name that I'm probably botching. But his sister, Dr. Ruja, who's, by the way, pretty smart. She is a doctor. She basically left. She abandoned the project. Nobody knows where she is. And whether she's in plain sight, I'll talk about that in a second maybe, or not. But anyway, this is the first trial of Mark Scott, who will go away for a really long time on the charges that they're going to charge him. They just started the jury selection, and it's something worth noting. This reads like a romance novel that has all the drama associated with mafia and corruption and power and everything. So you can't make this stuff up. The BBC, British Broadcasting, whatever the C would stand for, has run several series podcasts on this as well. But this is the first day of the jury selection. So in about 3 weeks, we're going to know what's going on. And since he meaning Mark Scott, was not offered a plea, he's either going to plead guilty somewhere in the middle and say throw up his hands, or he's going to be found to be guilty or innocent, because you never know. But that's what's going on right now as well. So for those people that want to see this OneCoin thing, there you go too. There's one more, Traffic Monsoon. Traffic Monsoon was run by a gentleman named Charles Scovel, and there was an ad, if you will, MLM, and this has been going on for years, and Charles Scovel is in jail on an unrelated charge relative to child sexual abuse, if I'm not mistaken. So, sorry, Charles, if I got that wrong. I may have that wrong, but I think it's pretty close. So, something about abuse and child and sex. So he's in jail facing that, but he's also going to obviously be facing the charges associated with this. But he was getting the Supreme Court at that level to try to make a decision on why they want to hear this case, because he thinks that they weren't a Ponzi scheme and weren't a pyramid scheme and should be found to be not guilty so he can get out of jail. And the Supreme Court just basically said, nope, we're not going to take a look at your stuff, Charles Scovel. So now the civil receiver case and the criminal case will probably start to move forward. So there's a lot of things happening in the MLM industry that are worth looking at. So if the Supreme Court did take up Charles Scovel, see, that would be something to pay attention to, but they're not. If Mark Scott's situation is going to go to trial, there's going to be a lot of stuff in disclosure. Holy cow, the witnesses and the drama associated with this is interesting. And OneCoin still is being promoted throughout the world in different countries, which is crazy. And then this whole Nerium / Neora thing is going to be fascinating to see how this goes, because both sides, the FTC and Neora, have put the gloves on, and they might as well get, what is his name, Dana White, the guy who runs the UFC, the fighting match, cage fight stuff. They might as well get Dana White to actually start doing some pay-per-view on this one, because it's going to be an interesting one, depending on where it goes and how it goes, and it's not going to be pretty. Now, that's the portion that I wanted to go over on our radio show. I usually don't do these on my own, but I already put out a bulletin that we would, so I figured let me just tidy it up and fulfill my obligation for those people listening in. If you go to buildingfortunesradio.com, you'll be able to hear any or all of the other ones. So buildingfortunesradio.com. There's lots of great ones. Pick some cool ones. If you go to /citizens, so buildingfortunesradio.com /citizens, you'll hear some great stuff from our Jim Turner, who's an attorney over in Washington, D.C., and he goes over a lot of things that you would probably be interested in as well. By coincidence, he also mentioned this executive order with Donald Trump that morning when he was talking about homeopathy and guidance. And in essence, this is one situation where the Donald Trump executive order, in my opinion, would apply. So it doesn't apply really to MLM and Nerium or Neora, but it would apply to what they're doing with homeopathy. So you might want to pay attention to some of those other radio shows. buildingfortunesradio.com /citizens. So again, my name is Peter Mingils. We are done with this radio show. Thanks for listening in, and we'll catch you next time.
You've been listening to Building Fortunes Radio on buildingfortunesradio.com. Thanks for listening. Be sure to check us out every Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time for the designated Building Fortunes Radio segment with Peter Mingils. Be sure to check out the buildingfortunesradio.com website for our featured segments. It's been our privilege to have you listen in. At Building Fortunes Radio, we wish you the success you deserve and are willing to work for. So spread the word, tell a friend, join our newsletter, and go make a difference in your world.